Hi, my name is Taylor. I own Threefold Branding Company in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and we help businesses build strong brands and show up more confidently online using strategy-based visual branding. But we don't just create the content for you, we also educate you and empower you to go forth and keep working in your strong brand and making it even better. And today I have one of our lead photographers with me, Emily. Emily and I go way back. It seems like a lot longer than it actually has just because there's so much in it. But before Threefold was Threefold, it was actually the TM Photo Co., which Emily and I started in 2021 or 2022?
2022.
2022. Yeah, it was after I had my daughter. And so we started TAM Photo Co. in 2022 as a photography resource company because our area is very photography saturated and there were no resources for photographers. And then eventually we started transitioning away from photographers to just creative businesses as a whole, and then to businesses as a whole as far as like educating and branding, doing wide scale headshot jobs and things like that. And then in November or January of this, or I think it was November of this last year because January was when we rebranded. Emily decided to take a step back because she had a new business venture, but she stayed on to lead our photography team because she knows all the ins and outs and the good stuff. So Emily owns M. Katrina Photo here in Chambersburg, and she also owns First Fruits Newborn Photography now, which is her newest venture. So tell us a little bit about all of that good stuff.
Yeah, so I started M. Katrina Photo back in 2018. I started in weddings, but I kind of transitioned to just being like the yes photographer. I would do seniors, headshots, anything that you asked me to do, I would do. And then in the past like year or two, I felt like I was getting confused on what I was doing and truly kind of like lost passion for certain things, which is what led me into newborns because I started doing more like newborns just kind of started naturally booking with me. And I was like, wow, I really like this. And God kind of like laid onto my heart. It was like, yeah, we should pursue this. So in the past year, I've taken some educational courses to broaden my horizons and learn more about newborn photography and kind of clear up that confusion between I was feeling confused about what I was doing. So I've had a harder time at figuring out what I was posting, which obviously confused my clients too. If I was confused, obviously they had to be a little confused too. So that's why I decided to separate the two brands. I still have M. Katrina Photo open as of right now, but I plan on closing that the more I introduce First Fruits Newborn Photography. I'm just finishing up all of the websites and back end stuff and fully launching that into the world now.
Yeah. It's really weird when you we spent 3 years as the TAM Photo Co. educating photographers on how to make strong brands and how to have a clear brand voice and ideal client. But when it's you, it's funny how long it takes for you to catch on to your own mistakes that you're making. And even people who ask us to like build websites, like I can build it for other people, no problem. Or I like other people, I can come up with ideas for other people, but not myself. And it's funny how like we tend to almost be like numb to our own brands in that way.
Yeah, self-reflection is really hard, and it's something that I've taken like the past year or two to really hone in on and realizing like, wow, stepping in that role of your customer, like your consumer, really changes how you view your brand and how you want to send it out into the world too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, when you're confused on what you should be posting, where you should be posting it, it's usually a sign that your client is also confused. And I've seen that firsthand myself of if you are like, I have no idea where to even start, what to even talk about, what value I have to offer. And then if you don't have any kind of clear vision of what you're going for, then your client's not going to have any clear vision. And we always say that if you confuse, you lose. People are not going to work that hard to understand like what it is that you're trying to say. If it does not apply to them, we immediately move past it. That's like literally how our brains are designed, is that if it doesn't apply to me, we move on to the next thing because it's not going to help me survive. It's not going to help me thrive. So I'm pushing it aside and going on to the next thing. So you have like a very small window of time to actually make an impression with somebody. So you have to be so clear and concise and know exactly what your brand stands for before you ever even are like going out into the world.
Exactly. Yeah. There's I was actually reading about a study recently, and it was they put out two different sets. They did a set with 6 jams, and then they did a set with 24 jams. And naturally, like the one with 24 jams, more people stopped at it, but less people bought. And whenever they only put out 6 jams, there was like 30% more sales. So it just goes to show that less is more, and more isn't like more will bring you less, honestly. Like it'll bring you less of what you want. Like you want more sales. Like sure, when there's 24 of them out there, and like as a photographer, if you're offering 24 different services, like sure, more eyes will be on you, but people are afraid of picking the wrong thing. And whenever you throw too many options out,
Yeah.
it's kind of like throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks.
Exactly.
And
When there's that many options, it's like throwing a dart at the dartboard and you're like, well, the bigger the dartboard is, like I have a better chance of hitting it, but there's also all this extra space, going on here.
where you're losing and confusing all of the other people
Yeah, when you're out on the outer edges and hitting, you're like, well, that wasn't really a win. Like maybe you're hitting more often, but it's not exactly what you were aiming for. And yeah, like you said, like it's like as a photographer, or even I see salons sometimes that do so many different things, which good for them. Like I'm really glad, I really get what you're going for, of like this one-stop shop kind of thing. But it's also that sort of thing of like, are you diluting what you're really good at, or you're never really getting really good at marketing one thing because you have all of these things going on. And it's this common misconception of like, the more that you have, the more that you're going to book. And that's not necessarily the case, because you never determine a really clear brand voice. You never determine a really clear key value offering that you're putting out there. You're trying to talk to everybody, which is really just confusing everybody. And maybe they'll follow along because sometimes things are sticking to the wall, but more often than not, you're confusing clients and you're losing clients as a result.
Exactly. It's like you said, like whenever you're talking to everybody, you're really talking to nobody, because if they're not relating to you, they're just going to scroll on past. And yeah, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And in 2025, with social media, you have like an instant to make an impression. And even like website calculators, when they're in Google, how it looks at your website. And
the Wi-Fi network. You might want to check
You said,
the
"Hey,
connections
Google."
Sorry.
in the Google Home app.
And in 2025, social media is such a huge thing that you only have seconds to make an impression. Like think about people like scrolling through TikTok or scrolling through Instagram Reels, how fast they'll determine if something is applicable to them or not. And even like Google and the way that it measures success, or any kind of website check, or the way it measures success, is it's looking at how long people are staying on your homepage. So even like within seconds of your website homepage, you need to say, yes, I'm here for you and I can solve your problem, and you are who I'm talking to. Like people need to know that you want to be a part of their story. You would think by being a business and being like, yeah, this is my job to make money, and by helping you, that would be clear. It's not clear enough. They need you to say over and over again, I want to be a part of your story. I want to help you. Here's how I can serve you, over and over and over again. And that's why every page on your website, every post that you make has to call them back to action, because more often than we believe as consumers, we need to be invited to take those next steps.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to define their problem to them so that they can be so honed in and so related to it to be like, oh my gosh, I deal with that too. And then that's what's going to encourage them to keep reading and like staying on there. But if you like just put a generic post out, like even if like whenever you talk to someone that you don't even like really know that well, and they try to make like generic conversation starters with you, like you feel awkward. And like think about how that feels like as you're scrolling. Like you can just like read a post and sometimes they make you cringe a little bit, because it's like they're trying to talk to like so many people that it's like it doesn't even make sense anymore at that point.
There was a really good comparison in a book that I read, where they were talking about like, imagine that you go to a cocktail party and you say, what do you do for a living? And they're like, well, when I was 16, I first opened this book and it made me believe in the joy of camping. And then we go on this long story just to find out that you work in the accounting department for a camping company. Like it's at what point are you checking out of like, okay, you work in the accounting department.
Right, like get to the point.
Yeah,
like.
yeah, get to the point. And at a cocktail party, you might stay there and suffer through it just to be nice, but they don't owe you anything. A consumer doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah, online they could just be like, thank you, next. And we're in this like this season, this era of instant gratification, and like if it's not instantly speaking to you, you're not gonna buy it. And I'm exactly the same way. So like you have to become like, you have to basically get into your ideal customer's mind and be like, what would I relate to? Like if I was searching for this certain product or this service, as a consumer, like what would speak to me as well. And
Yeah.
like looking at examples of other people helps, but you really have to find that value and define it for yourself as well.
And know your ideal client, because
Know who you're talking
yeah,
to.
yeah, your ideal client might be similar to you, but it's usually not you.
Not you.
So, looking at it from your own personal bias can even be hard, because you're fighting against your own personal bias to get into your ideal client's head.
Yes.
But yeah, all in all, the people want ease, and they want to quickly know that you can solve their problem. Before you're going on a whole tangent about all of this stuff, can you solve my problem, and can you solve it quickly? And that's sort of a big thing is quick decisions, them being able to make a quick decision. Whenever there's 24 jams, it's pretty hard to make a quick decision. You have time to think about, do I actually want this? Do I actually care?
Do I even need jam?
Yeah,
Like-
do I even eat jam?
Right there.
And you get like choice paralysis, and you're afraid of picking the wrong thing. And so whenever we are creating, your brand voice, there's a lot of things that are going into this, but it's also this certain level of clarity and cohesion that makes them feel comfortable in making a decision, and something that's speaking to them, that's like, yes, this is where I belong.
Right. Meeting them where they're at and being like, okay, yes, this is the person I want to work with. They're speaking to me, they're speaking my language, and that's how consumers choose. Like you said before, I think that we are creatures of survival. Like we choose the safest and like easiest option that we can get.
Yes.
So
yes, always. Always.
Yeah, so you have to make that easy and make sense for them.
Yeah. Our brains are built for us to survive, right? And what, caveman thinking, how did we survive? Our bodies are meant to avoid burning calories, because if we burn calories, we starve to death and we die. So, but us thinking and processing things literally requires us to burn calories. So our brain will determine what is important and what is not, to avoid having to burn those calories. And so it will lean into things it already understands. It will lean into things that it already resonates with, or that it's already experienced. And we become these sort of creatures of habit and creatures of comfort, whether or not we want to admit that we are. Think about your comfort foods. Think about your comfort movie. Think about all of these things that make you feel safe. And even like I think you and I had discussed like the power of nostalgia in your advertising, because nostalgia makes people feel safe. And one of the comparisons we were talking about as we were planning for this episode was McDonald's, because everybody has something horrible to say about McDonald's, right?
But we still go back.
But we still go back. Even when you're like, I'm on a clean eating cleanse, I'm not putting that garbage in my body. And then it's 11 o'clock at night and there's nowhere else to eat and you're starving, you're going to McDonald's. Like we nothing hits harder than a post-wedding McDonald's run. Yeah, from shooting weddings. But McDonald's is a great example of us being creatures of habit and creatures of pattern. It's something from our childhood that our parents probably didn't know the risks of the fast food and all that stuff. Like, and I told you, I still get the same thing that I did as a kid. Like there's this certain pattern, and like I remember all of these things. So like it might not be the best experience every time. You might not even get your food right every time, but McDonald's has held still to their key menu items. They try to hold still to like their value menu and their pricing. Obviously things like that change, but you're getting the same process every time. You even expect to possibly be disappointed every single time, but we still go and we get in line and we do it over and over again, because there's this certain level of comfort of this place that we've been to all this time, probably since we were kids. And you know exactly what it's going to taste like. It's tasted the same way every single time that you went, unless it's wrong. But we keep going back because we like repeating those comfortable and comforting experiences more than we care about if we're getting top tier results. Like, truthfully, you will choose comfort over better results, which is kind of goes back to the whole concept of you can have the best services in the area, but if you're not communicating clearly enough, it doesn't matter that you have the best services in the area, because nobody's going to book you because they don't know that you have the best services in the area.
Yep. You can be the best, but until you learn how to communicate and talk to the people that you want to work with, you're not going to see the success that you want to see from your product or your business. And then basically all of that hard work that you're putting into it doesn't even account for anything, because you're not speaking to the right people and like getting in front of the right audiences. So
without a clear brand voice, you really just run around in circles. And this is the thing of a lot of businesses think that it's optional. it is not optional. If you don't want to be working and spinning your wheels for no reason, you have to understand this. You have to have some kind of confidence in it. Otherwise, you are just running around in circles.
Yeah, unless you have that framework, that cohesion, like you're literally just throwing spaghetti to the wall and seeing what sticks. Like you're just like, let me throw out some of this content today. Let me throw out some of this. And like, but what is your value? Like, what are you at the end of the day, like what do you want to accomplish with your brand?
Mhm.
And that's when a brand voice and the cohesion of it just comes into place. Like your brand is more than just some font and some colors that people resonate with. It's your voice, it's your actions, it's what you do, what you provide them,
Mhm.
how they feel when they have your services.
Yeah.
Like,
What goes, we always say it goes out into, it's designed to go out into the world for you.
yes.
You know, you are part of your brand, but you're not all of your brand.
Right.
We talked about this with Audrey, even like you being great is a bonus, fantastic, but you are not your brand.
Mhm.
All of these pieces work together to be your brand. The way that your employees are going out and talking about your business in the world, the way that it visually looks, the values that you have. We had talked about Chewy being a great example of a strong brand that drives brand loyalty, because that's another piece of it is what are your previous clients saying? Are they brand evangelists? Chewy's a great one. If, you know, people, you see it all the time, people's animals pass away and Chewy not only takes their returns or donates their stuff, but they send them flowers and that kind of thing. And I was telling you about, I went to the nail salon for the first time since having my daughter. I went one other time before at a different salon, and I brought my daughter with me, and I was terrified because she's 3 and you never know how that's going to go. But they went so above and beyond to make her comfortable, and like painted her nails for free and let her put her feet in the little foot bath thing with me. Just like things that they didn't need to do, that if my nails looked like absolute garbage that day, I still would have come back because they went above and beyond for my daughter as a woman who hasn't been able to do those kinds of things for herself for so long. And that is how you drive brand loyalty. That's your brand going out into the world. Me now, as a brand evangelist of this nail salon, is your brand walking out into the world and seeing what other people have to say about you. So creating a cohesive experience and a cohesive feeling that everyone's sharing, because in great part selling services is about sharing a shared experience, or selling a shared experience of everybody got the same thing, everybody saw success, everybody did this, and knowing that, because anytime you buy a product, right, like you're taking a chance on a product, you're saying, what if it doesn't work for me?
Right.
So having these people out there that says it worked for me, it worked for all of us, it was the same thing for all of us, is such a powerful tool. But you have to know how to curate those things, and you have to know who's going to do that for you and the pieces that need to work together to make that happen. It's not just fonts and colors and logos. It's every little piece of intellectual thought and care that goes into your brand as well. And a lot of people don't know how to curate that.
No, they really don't. It honestly, I'm guilty of it, like taking me a while too to figure
Oh
out
yeah,
like
all of us.
like who I want to speak to and what I want them to know about me. And like your reviews speak volume, because honestly, like whenever I go to buy a new product, it's always price, reviews, and like if I see frequently returned on Amazon, like I'm next
out.
next
Yeah.
product. So it's creating those reviews and that trustworthiness of like where you're gonna go for the product, and like knowing what to expect. And yeah, so your reviews and that being a testament to your business is important too, but that's also tied into your experience and what you're giving to your customer every single time as well.
People crave comfort
And consistency.
Yeah. and they seek that out in the things that they're buying, the places that they're buying. And that's why you know, we hate to see it, but that's why places like American Eagle and Aeropostale are going to outsell a small town boutique over and over and over again. There is a certain level of, it's the same every time. There's comfort every time. It ships, it arrives, it does this every single time.
There's an expectation and it's met each time,
Yep.
which creates that trust and that loyalty to have your customers coming back and over again.
And it creates a pattern. Even if you sway from the pattern once in a while, people aren't going to look at it that hard, because 90% of the time you're keeping this pattern.
Yeah.
And it creates a level of expectation in your service. When you have a cohesive brand that's churning out the same results every time, even if you have a variety of different services, you know, if you're churning out the same expectations over time, it creates a consistent expectation of the service that you're going to provide. And that gives peace of mind. When somebody goes on your website, let's go back to the visuals. When somebody goes on your website and it's all very clean, everything matches, you have a clear brand voice, your colors look good, your logo's professional, that instantly, as much as we like to deny it and be like, oh no, Canva can do it for me. We love Canva. We don't hate Canva, but that still tells a story to a buyer of they take themselves seriously. They take this experience seriously. This looks like a legitimate company, and this is what I'm going to put my money into. They're going to do that 100 times over versus someone who doesn't have a website or isn't showing up consistently or doesn't have some kind of strong brand going out there in the world for them in some way or another.
Right. Yeah. It comes down to strategy and then also delivering on what you're saying that you're going to deliver on. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
100%.
every single time. Yeah, if you're not keeping up to your word, then yeah. It's not saying you can't mess up. Everybody messes up.
Everyone, but it's owning those mistakes. Like even like you said with Chewy, like they own that like sometimes products aren't the best, and they admit that they sold something that wasn't so great, and they apologize for it and send flowers or a refund and move on from that. But they show compassion whenever they mess up. Like it's being humble enough and not having an ego to just kind of be vulnerable with your customers too whenever you do. Like obviously don't put out all of your mistakes, but like if you mess up, just own that.
That you mess up. That's going to be so much more telling than
who you are and your brand than trying to brush stuff under the rug.
Yeah,
like
especially small businesses where you don't have the luxury of hundreds and thousands of reviews online to back you up, like Amazon or McDonald's or Joey. You're a small business and everything feels make it or break it. So the veering off course here a little bit, we had an incident a few months ago.
Oh boy.
We haven't talked about it very much, but basically somebody who had not utilized our services disagreed with our pricing on our wedding photography and ended up leaving us bad reviews on all of our businesses. And and they were not a client of ours, granted, not in any way, shape, or form. And that felt crippling. Like as a small business, you can have, 100 good reviews, but that one review feels like I'm never going to come back from this ever again.
Yeah.
And the best thing that we found to do, especially because there was so many of us being affected by it, was to go out and say like, hey, let me be clear with you guys what's happening. And we got a lot of good feedback from that, of being very vulnerable. I think that a lot of times we think we need to be these hyper professional, can't do anything wrong, can't make a mistake, can't show our feelings. But especially in small business, a lot of reasons that you're supported is because you're a small business.
Right.
And because you're a regular person that they see every day at the grocery store and in the school pickup line and stuff. So owning your mistakes or owning and being clear about things that are happening isn't necessarily a bad look for your brand.
No, transparency speaks volumes about brands, and even like funny witty ones like Wendy's or whenever they like do funny things like that, they'll like make jokes about their mistakes and everything. So it's like obviously not making light of it, but also correcting the issue too. And like letting the world know like, no, this is actually what happens, and going forth from there.
And it's okay. It's okay. I have like something on the very edge of my mind that I can't seem to grab a hold of where there was a mistake. Oh, the Red Cross. Did you hear about that?
I don't know if I did.
Okay, the Red Cross, somebody internally sent an email out to the Red Cross. She or he worked for the Red Cross. I could be butchering this. But they sent out an email that was supposed to be like a private email about like a party or something like that. And they sent it out to like a whole bunch of people in the Red Cross organization, like customers and stuff too. And the Red Cross was like, okay, what do we do? I'll have to look it up. But they were like, okay, what do we do? And they could have fired this person. They could have done this big formal apology or whatever, but instead the Red Cross, this hugely professional organization, made light of it, made a joke of it, and it was like national news that they went out of their way to be like, haha, hee, funny, you're invited to a party or whatever it was. And
I love that.
And they made national news. It's the Red Cross. That's not what you would expect from them, but they were getting eyes on them from people that probably haven't thought, I don't think about the Red Cross every day.
No.
Because they went out of their way to do that. And I had actually heard that story on some kind of branding platform because it was such a strange and strong thing that basically interrupted a scroll, interrupted their algorithm, broke, their pattern, and drew so much attention to their brand because they went out of their way to be like, yep, somebody messed up, but hee hee ha ha,
So many like random things can be like a brand booster for you too, like
by accident.
By accident. So just own that and like go forth with it. But like we said, transparency like will speak volumes over getting bad publicity because you tried to hide something and everything comes out of the eventually. Yeah. I feel like we're veering.
Yeah, we're veering.
We're spiraling.
Okay. So getting back on topic, I knew this would happen with us too.
We're spiralers.
We talk too much. With getting back on topic, breaking the pattern and breaking the algorithm to draw attention is a great social media tactic. If you read any books about social media or take any kind of social media courses, they'll talk about that. And it's a great tactic to get eyes on you, but you have the luxury of doing that because
you have those strategies in place. You already have that solid foundation to fall back on. So it's like if you do an oopsie every once in a while, it's like not that big of a deal because they still know what to expect from you. Like you're still providing that great service and you're having that brand cohesion and that leads to loyalty. But it's okay to like make light of things sometimes and like, but the only reason you can do that, or the Red Cross could do that, or McDonald's can do that, is because they have that solid foundation to fall back on too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we, when we're talking about our brand storyboards and we're taking people through all of this, we are trying to explain to everybody that people buy the most clear options because they want to minimize that risk. And so, incidents may happen. You may mess up every once in a while. But the reason that we preach clarity and we say you need to have these things in place is because by nature, we're trying to protect ourselves from getting hurt. We're trying to protect ourselves from losing money. We're trying to protect ourselves from getting our hopes up and being let down. So we're constantly trying to choose the safest option because we want to minimize that risk. Even like the biggest, scariest decisions I've ever made in my life is buying a home. I've done it 3 times. I don't know why. And there are so many risks and what ifs, and it's the most terrifying decision that you ever make. But it's like one of those things where you're backed into the corner of making it. But we're not talking about buying a home usually with services. We're talking about much more small things where it's easier to be like, I could go without that in my life. Yeah. So every piece of media that's coming from your business should be addressing objection. That's the whole goal, right, of having a really strong brand, is that before they even get to the buy now button, you've addressed every objection that they could possibly have. You've made it clear, here's why I'm the best person to fix your problem. Here's how I'm going to strategically fix your problem. Here's all the baby steps you can take to get there, so that when they go to hit that buy now button, there are no objections left. So every piece of media that's coming from your business should be minimizing their risk and counteracting objection, answering any of the questions that they might have, and showing a clear path to their success. Because marketing, brand marketing specifically, that's what that is this story of here's what you are now and here's what's at risk if you don't go with me, and here's the transformation that I can give you. People love transformation stories. That's what the multi-million-dollar movie industry is made off of, is this sort of like transformation process they go through in their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And like I implement that in my brand with newborns by being like, I have put all this money into education. Like, I know how to handle your baby safely. Sure, anyone with a camera could take your newborn photos, but they could also put your baby in the wrong position and cause lifelong issues. Like, I don't want to fear monger, but like, it's a legit thing that could happen. And as a parent, like, that is a very delicate situation. And like, a lot of parents could be like, oh, it's fine, I don't need newborn photos, but they're gonna regret that also. So it's also mentioning like, here's what happens if you don't go with me, here's what happens if you go with someone else, if you don't do this, and really answering all of those questions before they can have any objections to it.
And new parents sometimes aren't even thinking about that. They don't even know that that's a risk. They don't know that somebody would pick up a camera and offer to photograph their newborn without knowing how to handle a baby. And that is scary, first of all. And second of all, this goes back to being so abundantly clear with your clients, because they don't know that's a problem until you tell them that it's a problem, and then you tell them that you can solve that problem. So it's one of those things. And sometimes it's, in that case where we talk about like your villain needs to be super recognizable, they might not be thinking about it, but the moment they see it, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that I should have thought of that, you know?
Right.
And you might even have a kind of card to play of the way of like a parent is going to say, I should have thought of that. God bless them. I've been a new first-time parent too. And when I was looking for a newborn photographer, that was not in the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a certain part of being a parent where you're like, I should have thought of that. And you know what? I appreciate that somebody else thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what, and like you said, you don't want to fear monger.
No.
We're not trying to fear monger, but we are telling people
Like, this is a risk.
this is what you could lose if you don't go with me. Because you as a provider, regardless of what you're providing, do something special that make it work for you. You do something really, really well that nobody else does as well as you. And that's the whole point. And that's what you market yourself on.
Yep.
So that is the risk that you're saying of you might miss out on this. You might miss out, whether it's something huge like your child could get injured, or it's something like you might not get as much for your money, or you might get led the wrong direction, or, you know, that's something that we talk about with our brand photography of anybody can pick up a camera and take your brand pictures, but they're not going to get you very far. They're going to be glorified headshots. That's what we see a lot of, you know, just they're like, oh, I got my brand pictures taken. That's just you know, holding a curling iron. That's not
holding the scissors, but we're putting the strategy in behind it to be like, this is a photo that you can use for this type of post.
Yeah, and we're telling you how to use it. And
yeah.
So you could miss like that sort of not fear mongering, but you could miss this if you make a different choice, if you make a different investment. So that's part of the marketing experience as well, is showing them what they're at risk of losing, because again, people are afraid of making the wrong choice. So you're not fear mongering them, because people get real tired of the fear mongering stuff. There's enough of it. There's enough of it in the world. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. We won't talk about that here. But there's enough fear mongering in modern media. People get really tired of that. So it's not fear mongering. That's not how you should be presenting it. You should be presenting it of, this is what I offer that other people don't offer. So you show them this thing to worry about, and then you give them this clear path to success. So here's what you should worry about. Here's how I do it uniquely, and I can fix your problem in a way that nobody else can fix your problem. And that's why we do on our websites, when we build websites and when we educate like implementation of your new strong brand, is these very easy digestible steps that you give your clients to take. So whenever they are buying something from you, whether you're a product-based provider or a service-based provider, here's the very clear steps that you're going to take to buy it, or like after you get the product, here's the very clear steps on how to use the product, because people like these small, coordinated, bite-sized steps, right? We were trying to think of the Jessica Day quote. I still forgot to look it up of like, I take small planned steps like an arthritic dog. Like, so we like the little tiny steps so that everything seems more digestible. And we compared it to, or I compared it to when I was doing wedding photography full time of like my booking process is pretty long. Like the actual process is 3 steps, but I didn't want to include that in inquire, and then we'll do your consultation call, and then you need to sign a contract, and then you need to pay a retainer. When you start getting those long drawn out, it starts to be like, whoa, this is a lot. That's a lot that I need to do. So we smush it down into inquire, consult call, and then your booking process. So we're putting all that on the table for later, so that it's these small bite-sized steps that everybody can just kind of, they know that it's there, they know that it's coming, but it's not scary, because we just kind of told them, here's something maybe you should worry about. We don't want to give them more worry. Our goal is to give them very easy to achieve steps next to take.
Us as humans like taking a lot of information in a day, so making it as not overwhelming and as easy as possible to understand, and like feeling like they're accomplishing something whenever they do it. It's like, oh yeah, check this off my wedding to-do list. And rather than being like, oh my gosh, I have this whole list of like 17 different things that I have to do to just book a wedding photographer, and then I still have a coordinator and yada yada yada, all of that stuff. So it's very much like taking something off of their plate at the same time too. Like the fastest route to success is what we want to give them. And like you said,
and the longer it takes them to go through that process, the longer they have to decide if this is what they want to do. Think about how many times you load up your shopping cart online and then you stare at it, and then the shipping's $5.99 and you're like, never mind, I don't want any of this, and you just leave it.
Or you're like, I have to add so many things so I can get free shipping. And that is a solid business tactic.
You know what? They might be onto something.
They might be onto something there. But 9 times out of 10, if I only need one thing and I don't find anything else that I want, I'm leaving that cart.
Yeah. So how many times do you do that of you leave a full cart because you had time to think about it, you know? And that's sort of the thing of
I do that on Amazon all the time. Like, I'll like add all these things to my cart that I think I want. I'll let it sit for a few days and then I'll go through and I'll like actually make an order, but then I'll look at the total and I'll be like, actually, I'm going to remove this and this because I've had enough time to think about it and realize like, oh wait, I actually don't need it. And it's not saying that like we're pushing impulse buying, but it's more like, but you know that you need those things anyways. Yeah. Like eventually you will.
And this is the thing about like when you're selling your product, we believe that good salespeople are never trying to be manipulative.
No, it's not a manipulation. It's more of a like
utilizing marketing is not manipulation. It is these tactics help a buyer make a choice. And if you're selling something that is a good product or it's a good service and you know that there's a place for it, there's no icky sales feeling. Right. There is not that. But it is true that people will put things like what we do at Threefold, there's not a single business that I know that could not benefit from it. But there are countless businesses that will put it off and put it off and put it off when in reality it's something that could help them make more money, could help them market themselves more confidently. It could help them achieve so much. And we've seen it achieve. And so I know that what we have is good. And if I could just get you to try it and see what it could do for you, it's that kind of mindset. But that's why also on website, when we build sites, we always have the buy now or the book now button everywhere. Again, you would think that they know that we want them to buy the service, but over and over and over again, we're saying, look, here's your chance to buy the service. We want you here. Buy the service. Book us now. Get on a call. And so there's a 3-step, booking process or the, 4-step. You try to keep it under 5 or buying process, or here's what you do when you get the product, the little process that you give them. But there's also this opportunity to make that choice at any given time, and you're offering that to them as much as possible because once they decide that they want to buy it or they're committed to the idea, you want to get that started as soon as possible because if they have time to think about it and dwell on it and look at the oh, do I really need this or can I do this myself, that's when you start to lose your leads.
Yep. And you start there's a little bit of doubt that creeps in there, but you want to make it as quick and simple as possible. And even going through like the storyboard in my own business, like I have found ways to implement on my own website that it generated more leads once I had that clear voice and knew it. Like you said, like once I did it, I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like once I really sat down and fully thought through my process, it made everything so much easier. But yeah, even implementing it in my own business, the book now, the buy now, like I get inquiries right away or my inbox is just fuller that way because people are like, oh yes, I want to do this right now. And it's giving them the opportunity to
do that.
Do it. Yeah, just go for it.
Absolutely. And people don't like guesswork.
No.
Right. They want it to be extremely clear what they're doing, extremely clear what they're getting into. But so when they've thought it through, this is the thing. We will overthink and overthink and overthink over and over and over again. Naturally, more than we think that we would. And it's funny what causes us to sort of like take that jump and why so many people we talked about this the other day planning the episode. Why do so many people market with make the jump? Nobody wants to make the jump. Everybody wants the small, coordinated, bite-sized steps that make them feel safe in this, especially large investments.
Oh, yeah.
It's one thing to be like, make the jump, buy our $12, supplements. That's different than saying, I'm selling this premium $2,000 course or, something like that where there's no make a jump. There is over and over handling their objections, minimizing their risk, giving them guarantees that it's going to be different and it's going to work for them too. Right. And, by the make the jump just makes me giggle because
it's like
I'm guilty of using that phrase.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In my past posts I have definitely used that but it's like nobody's making the jump to start a business and everything. Like that's something that needs to be coordinated and planned and thought out. I can't remember what funny analogy we made the other day and it's like killing me right now because we made some funny joke about make the jump and it's like
You said something about jumping off a cliff, but
I
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know. I was like, are you gonna jump off a cliff just because someone tells you to? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember what it was either. I know what you're talking about though.
But it had me cracking up, and now I can't think of it, so I'm mad.
Story of my life. But
Yeah.
yeah. And one of the other things we had said of like when they do quote unquote make the jump, or they decide to hit that buy now button, or they decide to make that inquiry, you know, you're getting them after you've convinced them. You've taken this long road, and this is, in a way, it's very easy to get in your head of like, this is so much work. This is so much work to have to convince them. Why can't they just believe it? I have a good product. That, I think, is also, especially as an entrepreneur or a small business owner, that is showing care for your clients. That requires you to put yourself in your consumer's position of how can I make them feel safe in the choice that they're making. That is showing care for their money, care for their investment, showing that you're not just somebody who's like, give me it and go.
Right.
That you're taking the time to address their concerns, tell them why it's worth it, and go out of your way to minimize their risk. Like, absolutely, we want to minimize your risk. Just today, we pitched to a realty company, and the prospect of leaving their current media provider was worrisome for them. So how can we minimize that risk for you? We'll go out and do this first job discounted or no charge or whatever it is, so that you can make that next jump into using us all the time, feeling good and feeling safe that we're able to provide you with a top-notch experience before you go through that fear of having that hard conversation, you know? So there are ways to do that. And there's a whole rabbit hole of, you know, sending out free samples and things like that go through that process of minimizing risk. But ultimately, when they make the choice to buy after you've done all of this nurturing, you want to then be like, okay, let's do it. Let's buy it. How can we make even this process as easy as possible? So our comparison for this one was Amazon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And you listened to that episode that I sent you.
I did. Yeah. And it talked about how Amazon, instead of like paying attention to their competitors, they became obsessed with their consumers. And they have those like two pizza teams where it's just two people, and they roll out all of these strategies, but they're not just like rolling out all these strategies willy-nilly. They are taking the second to step back and be like, what worked for our customers, what didn't work for our customers, and then implementing from there, like the buy now, the same day delivery, like what are people really loving about this. And then even like we mentioned earlier, the features with the reviews, like they'll put a frequently returned item, so it fosters that trust of like they're telling you that this item gets sent back a lot. And I
didn't even think about that. Like Amazon made they went and made that an option, not carrying, you know, not necessarily worrying about like, oh well, we might lose money. We might not sell as many. We're making it forced to be, you know, you have to be giving a certain level of service to be on this platform. And like you said, that concept of being they stopped worrying about their competition and started worrying about their consumer. And that goes back to our motto, which is worry more about your client's success than your success.
Right.
And I think that is huge, especially for someone as big as Jeff Bezos, you know, to implement in his lower levels. And like you said, with the two pizza teams, it was my understanding that it was like, you know, they use it because the groups are small enough for them to split two pizzas, right?
Yes.
And they have these series of small groups that are banging out these different ideas, strategies, marketing strategies over and over and over again, or buying strategies or whatever. And they try it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's fine too, because there's constantly stuff going on. And like you said, they're stopping and they're evaluating, why did they love it? Why did they hate it? Why didn't it work? Trying to understand their consumer so well that they can anticipate their needs. And Amazon went from being Amazon to being Amazon Prime, and now you're getting your stuff in 2 days. And then now you can buy it with one click. I remember when they introduced one click and I first used it, and I was so angry because I ordered something by accident. But
it was almost too easy.
It was almost too easy, and I was in college and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was broke. I had like $13 in my bank account, and I'm one click buying. I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, no. But they go to the one click ease, you know, because they know easy. People want easy. And now like it's almost debatable on if it's better to go to a store or just buy it online, because it can be there the next morning between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. And sometimes, like, this goes back to McDonald's of sometimes they're not hitting their mark, but more often than not, they are hitting their mark.
Yeah.
So that's enough for you to be like, you know what, this will probably work for me.
Right.
And I'm going to keep doing it over and over and over again. So Amazon has really articulated this buying process that is just so easy. Why not do it? And you and I were talking about that the other day when I ordered the conference table for upstairs. I was like, why do I sit and hoard my cart? I'll only place an order when I have 3 things that I'm ready to order, when literally it's 2 clicks to order what I need on Amazon.
And it's always free shipping.
And it's always it's never not free shipping. So why am I holding on to all of this? I don't know. That's just how my brain works.
And it's a comfort thing too, of you're used to making all of those orders at once, because before you had to have a certain amount to get that free shipping. Well, now it's always free shipping, so you can order this, that, and
you're carrying patterns from other places into there when it's not necessarily the case.
Right, just emphasizes how much we are creatures of habits in that sense too.
Absolutely.
Even when there's a better way.
Yeah, there is a better way. Exactly.
Oh, there's a better way, but we are just so stuck in our ways that we do things the same each time, and
which can be used as a tool, or it could hurt you. You have to really decide how you're going to utilize that, and if you're going to let your brand get run over.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
So all of that being said, I know we touched on a lot of things today, but biggest thing being brand cohesion and building confidence in your brand by creating a sort of universal experience. How can we apply that within our own business? How can we kind of tell listeners how to put that into their brand? And it's important for listeners to know, Emily and my whole entire team, this is what makes Threefold different. My whole entire team, they know everything that I know. They have all been taught. They've put their businesses through the branding storyboards. And this is what makes our team so powerful, is that they've done it for their own businesses. They've seen the success. They've done the work. So they know how to go and deep dive somebody else's business. So when I'm asking these questions, she knows the answer. I didn't prep her for this. This is something that our team is really dedicated to understanding and getting better at and getting to know. And, and that's something that, I can bring the new principles in of, hey, listen to this, but you guys have always been so receptive and so smart and so good at looking things. I know I'm love bombing you. So good at looking at things from a different perspective. And that's what makes our team great. And that's what makes our Threefold great, is that everything that we're doing with this really strong brand-backed strategy. But anyway, let's talk about how you need to apply it into your brand if you want to see brand cohesion, a clear brand message, and evangelist clients. Is that the right word, evangelist?
I think
brand
so.
Evangelists, that right?
Yeah.
That's what Jesus.
Hello? I have a question. Help.
But brand evangelists, these people that are, kind of giving the gift of going first to your next clients, that kind of thing. So step 1, when we're at the top of the brand storyboard, how are we applying it?
So we are applying it by defining their problem, relating to their problem, and how we can solve it. So you're identifying, the internal conflicts and the external conflicts. So internally, what do we use? The house painting thing. So you're looking for a house painter. The external problem is your house is ugly. You're kind of embarrassed about it. The internal problem is
the embarrassment.
Oh wait, that's the embarrassment. Yes. Okay. I just said them both at the same time.
Okay.
But anyways, I was just jumping to the point. Anyways, so externally, your house is ugly. Internally, you're embarrassed about it. So that is what your house painter's going to
How are we marketing
fix.
it?
That's marketing.
We're going to utilize both of those tools of your house is ugly, but you're really embarrassed about it. So how can we help you to not feel embarrassed?
Right.
But First Fruits, I think, is a really good example too of defining your client's problem for them and how you uniquely solve it.
Yeah. So the problem is they're expecting parents. They actually don't know where to start first or what is even entailed with newborn photography. So what I'm doing is meeting them where they're at, being like, hey, mama, I know this is a really tough time. You have a bajillion things to juggle. So my internal problem is feeling overwhelmed by everything. Their external problem is they want newborn photos, but they don't know where to start or when to schedule it, how to schedule it. And we go from there. So I address all of those issues on my website from the jump and let them know that I understand and it's totally okay to feel overwhelmed by this. I'm here to walk you through it and be their guide, which is the next step. How can you be their guide? How can you show them the right steps?
Yes. And when you're the guide, you're working to foster that empathy of like,
Yes.
I get it. You know, you might not have children, but you've seen these women go through it over and over again. You have friends who have and who have talked to you about it. And like, and when you're defining their problem, it should, like we said, be something that's very quick and easy to recognize.
Yeah.
Just like you, everything that you just said, I remember feeling as a new mom of there's so much, even just now, my daughter just turned 3 and I didn't do her 3rd birthday pictures this year because there's so much going on and it's just another thing to think about, and me having to do them myself. I wish I should have just called Jim, but like do it pictures.
I
But
would have in a heartbeat.
yeah, I know, I know. But it was just another thing to check off, and it's not even just birthday pictures. It's you literally just had a whole human being come out
Right.
of you.
You're growing a human right now,
Yeah.
and you're also having to think about keeping it alive,
Yeah.
and also getting photos done. Like, no, let me take that off of your plate. Like, how can I solve your problem? Take a little ease off. Like, you have like 400 doctor's appointments coming up. Like, let me make this appointment one that is easy for
And
you.
worry-free.
Worry-free, stress-free. Like, just show up. Be yourself.
And part
bring
of
the baby.
identifying their problem also has to do with knowing them as your ideal client inside and out,
Yes.
and knowing what they're going to respond to, because there are people that aren't going to be willing to pay the extra money to guarantee their child safety. That's scary, but that is some people's reality of they're financially having to be like, I'm just going to watch them really close and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But your ideal client, and this is not meant in any way, but your ideal client, everyone's ideal client comes in a different tax bracket.
Oh, yeah.
Where are those people spending their time? What are they doing leading up to baby? What does their life after baby look like? Are they married? Are they single parents? What does that look like? All of that determines how you're talking to them and how you're communicating that problem to them.
Yeah.
And handling any objections that they might have prior to them even getting to you.
Right. Yeah. Even in our brand storyboard, like we literally go through and give our ideal client a name. Like I chose one of my past clients, like their names are Amanda and Dylan, and they like to go hiking. They've traveled to all the national parks beforehand. Like they value time together in the outdoors, and they just really want to cherish these tender moments and not have to really think about it that much. Like they just want to show up and be their authentic selves, and that's who I want to speak to.
Yeah.
And so that really helped like define my clarity and my voice, and like picturing a person of who you're talking
Yes.
to. And like I want more people like Amanda and Dylan. Like
Yes.
they are my
And that's a great way to start. If you don't know who your ideal client is, and when I first went through Ben Hartley's course of identifying my ideal client as a wedding photographer, I literally took every couple that I could think of that I loved and that I could shoot every single day, and I compared what do they have in common. I didn't realize how many nurses and teachers I shot. I didn't realize, all of these different things, what their husbands did for a living. Like all of those things, you'll find patterns that you didn't know were there. Even if it's not, they're all nurses. Well, they all might work in some kind of care, caring about teachers and nurses. They're the nation's, love
care. They're like
they care for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody. They're heroes, hometown heroes, kind of thing. And so they still fall into the same category of people.
Yes.
So you'll see patterns like that. And if you don't know how to identify your ideal client, start with that. Start looking at the people that you really, really love. See what energy they have in common. See what their hobbies are, and all of that. And that teaches you more than you would realize how to speak to them.
Oh yeah.
And then how to communicate their problem to them, because they are probably, if they're sharing all these other characteristics, are likely sharing a lot of the same problems.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we're communicating the problem and how we uniquely solve it, that all goes back to handling their objections. Everything that they could think of whenever they finally get to the price and they're like, ooh, or, to the buying department, they're like, ooh, I had too much time to think about that.
Yeah.
Have we addressed every problem that we could solve for them and make it easier? So that is the very core part, is really, really, really defining that problem and how you uniquely solve it.
Yeah.
And then the next step would be giving them that clear, easy arthritic dog steps to safety, and all the way until the moment that they're ready to buy. So fear to safety to that buying point, giving them those clear steps, and over and over again, inviting them to buy, asking to be a part of their story, asking to go into their life and to assist them in what it is that they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in a lot of ways, I have a lot of blog posts and everything too that explain, everyone's like, what if my baby doesn't show up when it's due date? What if all of this stuff, because it's always up in the air. So I'm very clear about my booking process and how it works. Like you're just saving a tentative date on my calendar too. So that's like another objection that a lot of people have. They're like, well, I don't know when my baby's gonna come. What if we end up in the NICU? Like that's okay. They can end up being 6-month photos if like we can't get to the newborn photos. So it's just really meeting them and their overthinking brain and being like, no, I got you. I got this. Like I've already thought about this. I've got you covered.
And that proves your competence, which is another piece of that, of being a good guide, is you're showing empathy. I understand what you've been through. And that's why I'm so good at this. But also I'm really competent at pre-planning for the accidents, the things that might go wrong.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then, like you said, going into the steps, like from there, then I have like a 1, 2, 3. Like I even give them 2 options. You can either fill out the form above and like tell me more about it, or you can just go straight to booking your tentative date and you're still going to tell me stuff about you.
You don't get away with that.
But it's more of a direct step by doing it that way. But or if you needed more of you, if you're hire an elder dog and you need more steps and you need more explanation, like you can fill out this form above and tell me what you really want, and we'll go from there. And then just explaining like, do one or 2 of these, like do one or the other of these, and then you'll hear from me. We'll plan the details, and then you'll get a confirmation email that basically goes into more advice. And obviously there's more steps after it. Same thing with your wedding booking process, but I'm giving it to them in little tiny bits and bites. And I'm also like giving them the options for the senior dog and for the
younger guy,
the
like
middle-aged dog,
years,
that is like more ready to like, yes, let me put that deposit down. Let me do it. If you're not ready to quite put that deposit down, you want to speak to me a little bit more,
we can do that.
We have that other option. So it's also not giving too many options either, but it's still giving that option of
well, I've seen your website too. It all flows very well of is this what you want to do, or is this what you want to do? And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that is a part of meeting the parents where they're at. How, clear are they, and this is even the difference between a first-time parent and a second-time parent. Have you been through this before? Have you, are they repeat, you were a wedding photographer first. So you're probably going to start to see, if you haven't already, your wedding clients' babies, so that's going to trickle down and they're gonna be like, I already know Em. I don't need to hear anything else. Here, give me this tentative date.
I don't want to type as much. Like I just
be like, hi, let me reintroduce myself. Like, you just saw me 3 years ago, but yeah. And it's kind of like 2 ways of afterwards when they're going into this like faux third step that's actually going to eventually lead to more steps is nurturing them through that process, whether you have the faux third step or they complete their steps just by doing that. Like if you sell a product and that's the end of it, how do you continue to nurture that lead? That is what creates brand evangelists of how do we make these people want to go out into the world. They are now a piece of your brand because their success is your success. If they're successful, that's a testament to your success and that you do your job well, or your product is really good. So they are now a walking, talking, existing piece of your brand. So how are you nurturing that client past that point, from the end of the process, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a shoot? How are you continuing to nurture them through their process and through their life? There's actually a social media book, or no, maybe it was, I don't know, one of the books that I've read, they're countless, or a podcast I've listened to, I don't know, was talking about like email drip campaigns, right? For like your possible leads and your possible clients, but what about for people that were already your client? How do you nurture these people that already put their trust in you to continue to do better? And that's something that we really care about at Threefold. Is we don't want to just give you the tools and say goodbye. We want to empower you, we want to educate you, and then we want to nurture you whenever you are growing to keep making good choices. And we learned something new, we want you to know about it because we gave you these tools. Here's how you can make it better, and that's how you create these people that go out into the world, speak good things. Your reputation precedes you, which is what you see from EKP going over to First Fruits. Is your reputation precedes you because you already have these walking brand evangelists. And one example I happen to think of, I just recently bought some like devotional books from the Daily Grace Co.
And they have like a little app that like has blog posts that are continually like giving you free devotionals basically to read through and kind of like inspire you through that. They also send you like a good amount of emails with like coupons or whenever they have a new product, or just being like encouraging words to them as well. And even other products, I mean, I know Amazon even does this too, like even after you purchase something, they'll be like, how was your experience with such and such brand? Like, and I feel like that's their way of, if it's a new brand, they're like, how did this person do as an Amazon seller so that we can improve the experience moving forward?
Yeah.
And it nurtures them in a way that like they don't even really think about it as like nurturing either. It's kind of sharing
you
free
don't
advice
realize it. Yeah.
or a coupon or anything, but it's not feeling salesy or icky or like.
Well, and it kind of goes back to, we were talking about the social media content pillars, which there's like that could be a whole episode on its own.
Oh yeah.
But one of them being, there's sort of this distorted view of what content pillars should be, and one of them is about completely posting in a way that is almost directed towards those previous clients. One of 3 content pillars, which is a lot of your content, one of 3 of your content pillars should be about nurturing old leads or nurturing old clients or nurturing people that have been around for a while and creating these long-term clients. And the reason that people are engaging with those particular posts from that particular pillar are because they've grown to love your brand, or because they've grown to trust you, or they see the work that you do. And that's one whole entire column is worth dedicating time and energy to, because they bring you more money or they come back, and that's what you want. That's the ultimate sign of you've done a great job, is that people are coming back to you.
And you're like showing appreciation for those past clients by being like, yeah, you're the reason that I'm here, you're the reason that I'm moving forward too. And so like you can't just like serve them and then forget about them. That's not a model that will ever work if you want to foster those leads. And they literally become like your walking billboards. Like I can't tell you how many leads I've gotten, and they're like, my sister did a photo shoot with you and now I need to do a photo shoot with you, or this, that, and the other. It's just like like you said, your reputation will precede you, and those people will literally be free advertising for you if you nurture and lead them into feeling heard and seen and appreciated in that way as well.
Yeah. And if they feel like, and people will truly acknowledge if they feel like you solved a problem in their life beyond, again, you being nice and you being great is fantastic. It's a great bonus. But if you are nice and great and fantastic, but you completely are off mark, or it's not a great service, I'll probably be like, yeah, she was nice, but I don't think I'm going to go. There's been plenty of people I've done that with. Where they're very nice, but they maybe don't do the best job. And, it's nice to have nice words said about you, but it's nicer to have positive
like
reviews and testimonies of like, she was nice and she did a stellar job kind of thing.
Like she was nice and really cool and also delivered amazing products or photos or anything like that. So
and sometimes helping this is a whole other thing that we could get into too, is like guiding their testimonies of being like, I love that you love me, don't talk about that so much, because and I know you see it, I know service-based providers are going to see it a lot. People that are going and meeting their clients in person, it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, she was so cool, and then we forget about the product part or the service part of like, I really love that you love me. Talk about the service.
Right? Can you talk about what I did for
Let's talk about the actual service. Say a little bit more than the photos are beautiful or my lashes look great, like a little bit.
Right, they're gonna think it's just my friends leaving reviews at this point.
They're gonna think that I bought you guys.
But like
I saw this thing on Facebook where it was like, if you've been my client for more than a year, you're no longer my client. I'm no longer professional. We're just besties.
Literally, that's how I feel about 90% of mine at this point.
But anyway, so to recap, applying these principles into your business to have brand cohesion, right? We've got understanding your ideal client. We've got defining their problem and how you uniquely solve it. Creating empathy with them and proving why you are, again, the best person to solve their problem and how you're going to solve it.
Right.
And then giving them those clear, tangible steps from start to finish of how you uniquely are going to fix that problem for them, and making it bite-sized and digestible while regularly inviting them back into your story and regularly asking to be in their story, because it's a two-way kind of street there.
Oh, yeah.
And then once they are becoming clients, hopefully we're obviously giving them a great client experience, but we're also working to create brand evangelists. We're working to create a great post session or post product or post appointment experience that is going to continuously bring them back and send them out into the world saying the best possible things about you that they possibly could.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's how you get a walking, talking brand beyond the visuals, which the visuals are very important. We wouldn't have a business if the visuals are not important, but the visuals are powered by the strength that comes behind them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's more than just pretty pictures. There's also a strategy and
of how to tell that story visually.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it. And if you want to do it for your business, shameless plug, right? Shameless plug. If you want to do it for your business, you don't have to be Pennsylvania based. You can be from anywhere to do a branding storyboard call, and we'll take you through that and give you those 15 talking points that help you address your brand. You will never not know how to talk about your brand again. Even going today to pitch, I was running through how to tell this story to them in a way it didn't matter. They just wanted to yap. But this way of how I would have to tell this story to them, because I know the order of my brand storyboard and I know what's important to them. So we have these 15 talking points that you can utilize to create social media posts, to create your website, to write your copy, all of this. So if that is something that you need, we have our brand storyboard services that are completely remote. And then beyond that, we have our branding toolkit, which is like our key service that we take you through the branding storyboard. If you are local, or we'll come to you, we're flying to Washington in July, all kinds of good stuff. So we will take you through the branding storyboard process, and then we'll plan a shoot for you, and we'll plan content for you, and we'll get you a logo that works for you and visuals, and just absolutely get you hitting the ground running and educating you on how to make it go as far as possible for you, make your money go as far as possible for you. So that is all that we have for you today. So thank you, Emily, for joining me. I'm sure we'll probably see Emily again. She is a lead photographer. We have 4 photographers on our team, but she's been around longest, so we had to talk with her. So she'll probably be back. But thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I feel like this has been on our bucket list for like 2
has.
years for us to do a podcast together. So I'm excited for the world to hear us yap. I'm sure they're gonna love it.
Get a few more, and it'll be really unhinged.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just wait till there's no structure to the one.
We had an outline today, or we would have been out the window. Be gone.
Oh yeah, it would have been a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.